Hey guys, Vas here from Aussie Playground and welcome to another unboxing. Today we're going to be looking at something totally different, something I've not had on the channel in the past, and that is of course a motorbike. More specifically, this one is the SKYRC quarter scale dirt bike. It's called the Super Rider SR5 and I'm actually very excited about it. I've never had one of these things before. I've seen a couple of videos of them, but I've never seen them up real close, in real life. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Now, I do have to do a big shout out to Banggood for sending the motorbike over for review. Not only did they send me the bike, but they also provided me with a discount code. So if you guys want to pick one of these up, be sure to check out the video description. I will have a link in there to the bike, as well as a link to the discount code. Now, the bike itself does come completely ready to run. You have battery for the bike, batteries for the remote. Comes with a couple of accessories as well. It is, of course, brushless. I'm really excited. Look, you know what? Let's just get rid of the box. We'll get rid of that guy because the bike is already out of the box. I will say that it did come very well packed, so you don't have to worry about it. I'll grab all these little things over here. You can see the size of the bike. Comes with a stand. Looks fantastic. I'll talk to you about it in a very short while, but for the first thing we're going to talk about here very quickly is going to be the remote, which got a little bit of dust on it. This remote I've unboxed recently with some of the other Hobby King cars. It's a Fly Sky remote, and it actually works very well. It works on 4 AA's, has reverse switches, and I'll bring it up close if you haven't seen one of these before. If the light doesn't reflect too much off it, there you go. You can see that pretty well, I hope. There you are. So you got reverse switches, binding button, trims, steering trim, throttle trim, and steering dual rate, which is fantastic. On and off switch down there. Good remote, good feel in the hand, rubber wheel. Nothing wrong with this guy at all. They do provide you with a charger. This one unfortunately did come with a European plug, but the charger does come with XT60s, and so does the bike, thank God. So that's actually a good thing. I'm pretty impressed with that, to see XT60s on here. We've got these kind of like little training bars. They go on the side of the bike, so when you're actually leaning the bike and trying to steer, it stops the bike from tipping over completely. Good thing to, I'm probably going to be using these for sure, because I've never ridden or driven one of these things before, and I need to learn where its limitations are, so this is actually going to come in handy. Batteries for the actual remote itself, which is great, and you do have a little accessories bag. There's a couple of Allen keys in here. There's also some spare servo horns, and there's these aluminium bits, which I'm not entirely sure what they're for. I'm yet to figure that out. There's also some preload spaces here for your shocks, and there's some grub screws, which you'll need to fit your little training bars on there. I'll call them training bars, I don't know, could be something else. Okay, the user manual is just a blank sheet of paper. No, it's not, I'm just kidding. It has this like sheet of paper over the top of it, I don't know, just to protect it maybe. But the manual itself is actually pretty good. It is written both in English and I believe that's Chinese, I'm not sure. But it does have some information about the electronic stabilization system. Real trippy thing, because I have plugged the bike onto the battery, and as soon as you plug it in, the stabilizing gizmo starts to go full bolt, and yeah, the bike doesn't even have to be on. As soon as you plug your battery in, that starts spinning, and it's real trippy when you hold the bike in your hand and that thing's spinning and it just starts to straighten itself. It's bizarre. Really cool, I have to say. Blown up picture of the bike, so if you do need to do any maintenance, replace some parts, everything's got a part number on it, so no problems there. You should be able to look those up. And something that's very interesting about steering this bike, I'll bring this up to the camera here, and hopefully the light, hang on, let me go on this side, might be easier. Here we go. All right, so you'll see here, as you turn to the left, the wheel is actually supposed to turn to the right. And when you turn to the right, which is this side, the front wheel actually turns to the left. Now the reason for that is because it's counter steering, because the bike doesn't steer like a traditional car. So when you actually want to turn to the right, the wheel will actually turn to the left and lean the bike over to that side, and then you kind of have to counter steer it. That's my understanding of it. Never ridden one of these things before. I think it's going to be hilarious when you watch me drive this thing for the first time. I'm certainly going to have a laugh, but hopefully it's going to be a lot of fun, and we can all enjoy it. So that should be cool. All right, now for the bike itself, let me take it off the stand here. The stand is actually really cool because the way I've got it set up at the moment, this already comes pre-assembled too, by the way. You put it down, the bike will sit on there, and it keeps the wheel off the ground. So if you do want to run the bike, adjust your chains, or do any sort of, I don't know, whatever it is that you want to do to the bike, that keeps the wheel off the ground. But if you turn the stand this way, and then you put your wheel on here, it will actually help you kind of launch the bike. You don't have to sort of hold it and let it go. So you can have it sitting up as it is, and then when you give it throttle, the bike will just take off. That's my understanding of it anyway. Like I said, I haven't driven this thing yet, so it's going to be an experience. All right, so you can see how big this thing is. I actually had I had it up next to the BES, the Team Magic BES that you see back there, the monster truck, and it's got the exact same wheelbase. So wheel nut to wheel nut, it's exactly the same length as that monster truck. But of course, this towers over the monster truck because of the rider on here, and this guy looks really, really cool. I really like this bike, and I'm not just saying that. I wasn't sure. Like, I don't know anything about these things, and the videos I've seen, you know, they look fun. They look like something that I would really like to try out. And the opportunity presented itself, and I decided, why not? Let me try one of these things and see how it goes. Looking at it up close, there are a lot of good things that I see here, but there's also a couple of things that I'm a little bit iffy about. And I'm going to run you through them all, of course, as I always do. So the rider itself is made out of like this really hard rubber. So you know, he's going to be able to take a beating, I think, but it's not made out of plastic as such. So it's not likely to break. There's a lot of flex in this. You can push down on his arms and his legs and his body. So, but it's really hard. It's hard to sort of squeeze him. You know what I mean? The handlebars are actually quite soft. They're not super hard. So, you know, if you do come off and takes a bit of a tumble, it's not something that's likely to snap off, I'm hoping. The plastics on here feel like your traditional sort of leg sand that you'd find on any sort of ready-to-run buggy or monster truck or anything like that. So that looks pretty cool. It does have a 1/8 scale shock hidden away in the back here. Hopefully you can see that. You can see him just there. And there's this plate that kind of goes over the front. And the plate kind of protects all the dirt and debris as you're running the bike, because it's going to pick up a lot of stuff, and you know that protects the shock from getting dirty or getting clogged up with rocks or whatever it is that you've got in there. Now, of course, on one side here you can see the electrics, so you can see them there, and on that side you'll have the spur gear and pinion, which is just over on this side. One thing I did notice, the mesh on this is actually really tight, so I'm going to have to undo the motor and actually bring it back a little bit. Sometimes when I get ready to run RCs, the mesh is set out too much. In this case, it's actually quite tight, and when I sort of run the wheel here, I can feel that it's actually binding a bit, so I need to pull it back just a smidge. Another thing I want to just touch on very quickly about the rider, it is bolted on underneath his feet. There's actually a screw on either side. So if you're worried about him coming off or anything like that, or after a tumble, it's unlikely this guy's going to come off anywhere, because yeah, he's pretty well on there. He's not going anywhere. There is this sort of like metal bar that kind of sticks out of the fender back here. So this is good because it's obviously going to protect the leg sand, and you know, when you sort of do your wheelies and whatnot, if you go back too far, it's going to protect it. So that's a good thing. And in case you're wondering, the leg sand does have like this plastic protective cover on it, which I'll need to peel off. Haven't done that yet. Electrics, in case you're wondering, it's a 60 amp ESC, runs a 3200 kV brushless motor, and it is a 3650 in size. This system can run on both 2S and 3S. So I think it's going to be pretty crazy on 3S. I'm really dying to try it out. Aluminium framing, you know, through the entire bike, so it actually looks really good. It feels quite heavy. There's a bit of weight to this. This is not a light bike by any means. It probably feels about as heavy as, I don't know, like a short course truck maybe, or even a 1/10 scale monster truck. It has some weight to it, which is really good. What else can I tell you? The swing arm back here, this rear swing arm, is actually made out of a really thick, dense plastic. It's very, very stiff, and it does have some aluminium reinforcement inside as well, which I'm hoping will obviously keep this thing from snapping off. couple of things I didn't like straight out of the box. I'll mention this. The on and off switch is right up here. Now I don't know if this is going to be a bit of a problem because it's right behind the front wheel, and as you're riding and going along, obviously things are going to kick up and they're going to hit the bike, and I'm worried that it's going to hit that switch and of course turn the bike off while I'm using it. So I may take that switch off and mount it under here, just underneath the motor. There's a little spot just there, bit of a flat spot. I might put it there. I think it'll work a little bit nicer there. We'll see how we go. Steering servo is very interesting. It's mounted across the frame just under here, and I'll see if I can lift up the Lexan here to give you a bit of a peek. So you should be able to see it there. Now this does have a plastic servo horn, and the servo has this like on the either side of the servo horn, I should say, there's these springs. So similar to what you'd find on a gas-powered car, there's these springs in there which have these metal retainers on either end of the spring, and of course you can adjust those and tighten up the spring, because that's your servo saver, as opposed to having like a turning collar or something like that you'd normally find on cars. In this case they've got the spring as the servo saver, so it really needs to take a big hit to really make that servo work, or to work against it, I should say. Now we'll go on to the suspension, because this is an interesting one. I'll just move the stand out of the way quickly. The suspension on the back, it actually feels really good. Probably a bit undersprung, but it's not too bad. It just needs to kind of lift up a little bit more, but they do provide you with some extra spaces, so I may actually use a couple of those to see how it goes. But it feels really nice in the rear. The front, however, is something that I'm not sure if that's supposed to be like that. I'm assuming it is, but there's no oil shock in there or anything like that. It's just kind of like these metal springs that are inside a tube, and that's all the suspension you're going to have on the front. It may make it may not be a big deal at all. Maybe that's just how it is, because most of the time the bike's probably going to be on the rear wheel anyway, and it's fairly light in the front. So that's probably why they didn't put too much effort there, but that's just something I thought I'd point out. The tires themselves feel really, really good. Kind of nice, soft rubber, but the inserts are super hard. So I'll bring the bike up close again, and I'll show you the rear tire here. So very much, you know, your trail type of tread, motocross tread, but it's really a nice rubber, but it's almost like it's got a bit of an air pocket underneath the tire. And then the foam inserts are actually really hard, so that's just something to point out, I guess. I love the chain on this thing. Such a nice look to see the you know, the rear kind of sprocket or spur going through and having the chain, because this brings back a lot of memories to me. So for those of you who don't know, I used to ride motorbikes. I had road and trail bikes. I had Yamaha, Hondas. The last one I had was a Suzuki, but it was a road bike. And you know, I've been into bikes on and off for a number of years, and this definitely hits a you know, a spot in the heart, because anybody that rides, you know that you've always got a soft spot for motorbikes, and this one definitely yeah, it hit a spot for me, and I'm really liking it. I'm not a big fan of this antenna kind of sticking out through here. I don't mind the tube where it is. What I'm not a fan of is how it comes set up. So it has the actual antenna of the receiver kind of sticking out of the tube. So I may trim the tube and actually push the antenna down into the receiver box, which is underneath, right underneath where he's sitting. That's where it is. And the reason why I'm not taking off the Lexan, like the body of it, is because, as I said, the rider is screwed on underneath his feet, and it's a bit of work to sort of get to it. But I will do that one time just to shorten this, and that way it doesn't get caught up on anything. What else can I tell you about this? The battery that it comes for the actual bike itself. Battery tray is underneath here, and it's held in place by one little pin, which I will say is a bit of a pain to get out. I may need to put like maybe something on it to see if I can get it out, because ouch, yeah, it's a bit tricky. All right, so this guy just lifts up like so, and it reveals the included battery, which is a 3000 milliamp nickel metal hydrate battery pack. Now I will say this, Because the bike has this stabilizing system on the back, which spools up as soon as you plug it in without even having the bike on, a 3000 milliamp nickel metal hydrate running a brushless system like this on a bike that weighs as much as this does, I don't think this is going to last very long. That's just an estimation. I could be wrong, maybe you'll get 10 minutes out of it, but my guess is you probably get less than 5 minutes with this, definitely. That's my guess. So you definitely want to get into a LiPo and get something with a bit more milliamp per hour. Now, I tried a few different LiPos that I have here at home, and I have to say it's actually a bit of a tight squeeze. What I did find, and I'll take it out of my pocket here, it's been tucked away here. I got this one, which is a Zippy 5200, beg your pardon, and it has the cables coming out from the top. Now, forget about the brand or the type of battery it is, don't worry about that. What matters is where the cables are coming out, because I've got a couple of different ones. Batteries with bullets coming from the top, forget it, you'll never get them in here. Batteries with the cables coming out from the top, I actually thought was going to be a really good idea. I've got the same batteries, but with the cables coming out of one of the corners, and you might be able to see there's a couple of holes. You can see where this wire is coming out, which is for the ESC, and there's another one on the other side, another hole just there, if I can get this right. And what I noticed is, I thought, okay, well, the battery's got the cables coming from the top, I'll be able to squeeze them in there, but it doesn't actually work. It's such a tight fit that it doesn't actually work all that well. So these coming from the end of the battery actually work the best, and these are the batteries that I'm going to be using to get it in here, because yeah, nothing else fits, unfortunately. So that's pretty much it for the battery tray. Keep that in mind when you're selecting batteries for your motorbike, because yeah, not every battery is going to be able to work in here all that well. And I think I've covered pretty much everything there is to cover about this guy. If you haven't noticed, the little post here for your these little posts here are for your training bars, those little hoops. So they'll go in there, and you put your grub screws into place, and that secures them. Tires we've covered, suspension, battery. Look, I really like this. I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be, if I can get that to sit down properly, I think it's going to be pure comedy for me to actually learn to ride this thing, or drive it. What would you call it, riding or driving it? Because yeah, it's big, it's definitely got my attention, and I'm really pumped for it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So that is the SKYRC Super Rider SR5, I almost forgot what it was called, that came to me from Banggood. Again, don't forget to check out the video description. I'll have a link in there to the bike, as well as a link to the discount code, which will of course save you a few bucks if you want to grab yourself one of these. Stay tuned for the running video, and of course I'll follow this up with a review later on. I thank you all very much for watching, and I will speak to you next time.